What's up, guys? It is I, once again, Joseph Cohen Mason, and today, guys, I am going to do a very special video which I'm very excited for. Now, in my last video, which is the review on Inside Out, I mentioned that I was going to do an Inside Out tag video after being tagged by a good friend of mine and a fellow YouTuber, Rachel Wagner, who you can check out in the description box down below, along with my movie review on Inside Out. I was tagged by Rachel to answer 5 questions of books or movies that made me cry, scared, angry, disgusted, and sad, and also happy. And all these questions are recorded down here in this note right here, Inside Out tag. I'm going to answer these series of questions, and by the end of the video I'm going to tag whoever I like for them to do this kind of Inside Out tag video. So question number 1, what is a book or movie that makes you happy? Well, a book that makes me happy would have to be The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I haven't read much of Tolkien's novels besides the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I'm a huge fan of his work and the movies as well. But relating to The Hobbit, this book is it's very, like, you know, full of joy, adventure, and all that kind of stuff we love in adventure stories, and it follows Bilbo Baggins, who tries to prove himself as an adventurer to the dwarves and Gandalf the Grey before the events of Lord of the Rings. And there's one moment between Smaug, the dragon Smaug, and Bilbo, where Bilbo tries to persuade Smaug not to burn him, and he does so by almost rhyming to him certain things about who he is as a person, like I am Bell Rider, I am Stinger, and I am blah blah blah, and Smaug is very intrigued by him, as are we, the readers or viewers, and it's quite fascinating to see him outsmart Smaug in a way, which is pretty cool. And I really found joy in this book in general. It's one of the best fun times I had reading a book, which is something that I like to do a lot. Reading books, watching movies, but you get what I mean. Now, and the movie itself made me also happy, as did the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I really love. So that's question number 1. Now question number 2, what is a book or movie that disgusts you? And well, a movie or book that disgusts me, very much so, would have to be, well, this is actually a book I love very much, but there are definitely moments that disgust me, and why I understand some people aren't a fan of this guy or his work. This author I'm talking about is Cormac McCarthy, and his best work by far, his masterpiece, is Blood Meridian. This one is probably his most controversial book of his entire, his book in a career, in a writing career. So I think there's a lot of reason behind why that is, because as great as this book is, with the symbolism, the philosophy, and the postmodernism of Cormac McCarthy's writing, there are definitely moments of this book which is very, very graphic in its violence. It was described by a teacher at Yale University who described this book as being a virtuosity of violence, almost like the violence is very, not glorified, but it's definitely like detailed in how it's depicted, especially with the gruesome part of this novel, which contains racism and violence and misogyny, all that kind of stuff you'd find in the Old West. Especially the fact that this book is a true depiction of the Old West, and a lot of westerns nowadays, which I love, usually depict the West in a very light-hearted way, and there are definitely those, like the spaghetti westerns or the film of Sam Peckinpah, that do portray the West in a very dark, gritty way. But this one is on a whole other level, and I really love it, but there are parts that really disgust me, and those parts I mentioned are that reason why. Question number 3, what is a book or movie that scared you? Well, I was gonna say the Exorcist novel, but by Peter William Blatty, but it doesn't really scare me that much that it really qualifies as a scary book. But there are moments in that book that scared me. But in terms of movies, the one movie that scared me a lot more than The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, The Shining, or even like the Blair Witch Project, which is kind of divisive, but I still like it. But the one movie that scared me so much because of its atmosphere, setting, the tone, and the way the movie was shot, and not so much for its shock value, but just the way it was shot, is very gruesome and very like kind of hard to watch. That movie being Roman Polanski's Repulsion, which is, I think, is his second movie after Cul-de-sac. I'm not sure really, but that movie Repulsion has a lot of things which really creep me out, and the main focus of the movie is on what's her name? The actress of the movie. I know her name, but she's like a French actress who I really like, but I forgot her name. It escapes me. But in that movie, she plays a woman who's very psychologically disturbed, and there's something about her past which really is mysterious and ambiguous. But by the very end of the movie, there's one scene that it still creeps me out to this very day. I have nightmares of that scene. There's no ghosts, no monsters, no violence, nothing supernatural. Just the way it's shot and the way it looks and the way she looks, it stuck with me and it gave me chills going down my spine. It was that scary, creepy, and freaky. That qualifies as true horror. Question 4. What is a book or movie that made you angry? Well, a book that made me angry, the movies as well, is The Godfather novel by Mario Puzo. Mario Puzo has made a lot of novels following The Godfather, which I think was his first work. But this book, what made me angry about it and how it differs from the trilogy of movies, I haven't seen the third movie, but I want to soon. Now, the Godfather 1 and 2 does focus a lot and is based a lot on the novel. It's faithful to it, but there are some parts tweaked. I don't know why, but it still frustrated me what happens in the first and second movie. This book, however, Michael Corleone takes on the mantle of the Godfather, the Don, after his father, Vito Corleone. And the thing that made me so angry was how his wife, Kate, she had to bear with him and all the things he's done. I don't like Michael as the novel goes on, much how I don't like him as the movie goes on in part 1 and 2, because Michael is one of the greatest villains I've seen in any stories of this kind. Not just mob stories, but character stories of how a character who has so much power, so much wealth, and yet he drowns himself in all this and tries to justify what he does as being the right thing for his family, which is nonsense. And Kate has, I think her name is Kate, she has to bear with this, much like how Michael's mother, Vito's wife, his wife, she has to actually tolerate what he's doing, and she has to tolerate everything he's done, from killing to murder to assassination to like manipulation. She had to endure that for her family's sake, and now Kate is following in her footsteps. And the ending, which I won't spoil, of the book, it made me angry, sad, frustrated, and one thing is for sure: I did not like Michael by the end, and I still don't right now. Now, the last question: what is a book or movie that made you cry? Well, a book that made me cry so much, and I think it really, there's two movies that made me cry, and if I'm missing out something, no, I'm not missing out anything. There's two books that made me cry a lot. One because I was crying with joy, the other was crying with sorrow, that being the one with sorrow is Candy, a novel of love and addiction by Luke Davies. This novel ends in a way which is kind of like it makes you understand why the character of Candy falls in love with the main character of the story, who is based somewhat on Luke Davies's personality and his life as a heroin addict. That character I will refer to as Jack, because in the movie adaptation, also written by Luke Davies, and his character is known as David, but here I'll call him Jack because he's never once mentioned by his name in the novel. But I think that his character almost brings down Candy in how his addiction doesn't just come from heroin necessarily, it also comes from his infatuation for Candy, the title character. This is ultimately her story and not so much the character Jack's story. And I really do like this novel, but the way it ends, it's almost on a happy note, but really it's not. I won't say much, but it's kind of like gives you a sense of hope, but really, in the real world, a junkie can never achieve true happiness, because if you indulge in one's addiction, whether it be love, drugs, or whatever, it will corrupt you and those around you. And the best thing you can do is let go, no matter what that is. And the book that made me happy is actually Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. My favorite of her work, along with Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen's work is something I'm a huge fan of. And Sense and Sensibility, the moment that made me so happy and made me cry with joy was actually the moment when this is a spoiler, Eleanor is confronted by Edward, who admits his love for her, and Eleanor, who has always loved and always wanted to be married to Edward because she really does love him, and Edward coming to her and admitting his love for her and trying to show his feeling, which he was unable to do, it broke me in a good way. I mean, as Eleanor weeps at this knowledge brought to her by Edward, it really gave her so much joy that she almost cries, and that was just so beautiful to watch in the movie or to read in the book. And this was followed by Marianne, her young sister Marianne, eventually falling in love with Colonel Brandon, which really hit home for me. I love this kind of story, guys, and like I said before, I am a sucker for romance stories. Romantic comedies, romance drama, love stories, Romeo and Juliet, I love it. And this is the best of best. Now, I want to give some honorable mentions to some books which gave me a lot of feelings, from joy, disgust, and sadness, and made me cry, made me angry, and made me scared. This honorable mention is the Walking Dead series. I know it's a comic book series and not so much a novel, but Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead series deserves a mention because it's one of those comic book series, besides superhero comics, that made me feel something, a range of emotions which I never thought I would feel in a comic book series. And the Walking Dead TV show, my God, it is that good. It is really that good in everything The Walking Dead's about. And now, the grand finale, I'm going to tag the people I love most as YouTubers and as friends, much like how I was tagged by Rachel Wagner, another dear friend of mine. These YouTubers, who I'll put the link for their channel in the description box down below, they are as followed. Critics Business, Sean McGee, a dear friend and brother of mine, who makes some awesome videos and is one of my favorite YouTubers. I highly recommend you check his channel out, and Sean, I'm tagging you, brother. Second, Rob Ryan, or Rob the Movie Reviewer, who is a YouTuber I recently discovered, and I enjoyed every one of his videos. Check his channel out, and Rob, I tag you, brother. The third mention goes to London City Girl, London City Girl TV, also known as Samantha, and she's an awesome YouTuber who I really love. I got introduced to her videos after seeing after seeing her reviews on such movies like Seven Samurai and Jackie Brown and movies before that, she's a very she's like a very brilliant YouTuber who has a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding about films and how films work, the story behind them and the making behind them. I grew to love her videos. Check her channel out, and Samantha, I'm tagging you. And fourth, we have Overdrew Review, also known as George McInturf. George McInturf, I've been watching his videos ever since I made my third channel talking about movies and stuff. And George is a very great YouTuber who I like. His voice is so cool and so awesome. His reviews are outstanding. And I really do like his opinion and his humor that he put in his reviews when talking about movies he likes a lot. And movies I like as well. And George, I'm tagging you, brother. Now, check all these awesome YouTubers out. I highly recommend you do. And that's the end of my Inside Out tag. And thank you so much, Rachel, for tagging me. It means a lot. And guys, thank you for watching. If you like my video, give it a thumbs up. Until then, watch out for the next video. Until then, adios, amigos, au revoir, and sayonara.